Hello, everyone. My name is Lloyd Stokes. This is our brand new podcast. This is Effing Hard, which is a podcast designed to appeal to founders and senior leaders, and indeed, actually, anybody working within a business that's looking to scale. But the core objective of this podcast really is to be able to tell the story of people who have lived and breathed journeys of working in organizations where they've had the chance to be part of something that's scaled, and not just to tell the story of success and the glory that comes with it, but actually to unpick some of the challenges and really to unearth those stories that hopefully will resonate with the audience and help others in the future. Today, I am joined by Ollie Sharpe. I've known Ollie for a while now, and he's been gracious enough to appear on an older podcast that I did called Source Presents, which was really, really insightful. And I was so keen to get him back onto this brand new one. So, Ollie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lloyd. It's great to be here. One question before we start getting into it. The fact that it's effing hard, am I not allowed to swear on this? Does that mean that we can't swear? You've got the wrong person on if that's if they're the rules.
Well,
I'll try my best.
This is absolutely supposed to be raw, unfiltered, as unedited as we can make it. And actually, I did one of these earlier this morning with a guy called Mark Wright, who won The Apprentice back in 2014, and he's a very proud Aussie who calls a spade, I guess, is and to say it was unfiltered would be it very much was. So say what you like.
I'm a Yorkshireman, so it's hard for me not to. So apologies up front.
I love that. Ollie, tell us a bit about kind of where you're at now, because I know we were just talking that before, and it is a new move for you, but also just a kind of short potted history, I guess, of your journey and how you ended up being where you are today.
Cool. Yeah. So starting at the beginning, I started my career doing door-to-door sales, which I learned a lot from. I even did it for 2 years. And then I had to retire because I broke my ankle. Fell into recruitment. I did 10 years in the recruitment space, recruiting mainly IT sales professionals and managers and reps. So I spent 10 years doing that. Then I was lucky enough to move to LinkedIn. That was my golden ticket, basically. I was very lucky to move to LinkedIn. I was one of the first 14 employees outside of the US for LinkedIn. So people didn't know what LinkedIn was at the time, which was fun. So I did that. I ended up staying there 10 years. I moved into leadership. I learned a lot about culture and the importance of having a good culture in leadership and stuff, which was great. Then after 10 years, I left there and I set up a company called SalesLoft. It's a sales engagement tool, Atlanta-based. I was the first person on the ground in EMEA, and I built that business up to 125 people and 20x million revenue. And then I went on to do a little bit of advisory work and consulting work with some companies, One Up Sales, for example, and some others. Then I had a couple of jobs, and then I have landed on my feet again. When I left SalesLoft, I wanted to work for a sales tech company, UK-based or European. Great founders, care about culture, new category or growing category. It didn't exist at the time, but I became an advisor to Trumpet, is where I am now. 18 months, I don't know, probably 20 months ago, let's say. And so I became an advisor, worked with them quite closely, and then the stars aligned, and that sales tech company, UK head office, all the things that I wished for when I left SalesLoft, it appeared in front of me. So I'm now working for Trumpet, which is a digital sales room. It's a bit different to what people see as a digital sales room because we're more about the sort of the entire revenue organization. So we are used by CS, account managers, etc. And it has sales tools within it, but seed funded. So we've had 2 rounds of funding, 9 million raised, and we've got clients such as HubSpot, Gong, Personio, as well as a lot of small companies as well. Growing category, very exciting space, and what's important to me is a good culture. So yeah, I'm very, very happy. As I said before, I'm back to being excited on a Sunday to come back into work and love what I do and a great company.
Good. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about Trumpet. So and I knew you would advise them as well. So yeah, sounds like a great fit. I'm going to take you back a bit further. Growing up, most Yorkshiremen, I've got a couple of very good mates who are Yorkshiremen. Um, both of them grew up either wanting to play football for Leeds United or play cricket for Yorkshire. They were, and what my understanding is that most of the people, most of their friends at school, that's what they were doing: football or cricket. What about young Ollie? What was young Ollie planning to do when he was at
I
school?
was working down pit. No, I wasn't. I was. That's not. That was preemie. So I also played a lot of sport. I played competitive level at tennis and cricket and stuff, and I actually was in the Yorkshire Nets to play cricket for Yorkshire, but I didn't work out. So I was very sporty. I liked that side of it. But I also liked art, and I wanted to be. I wanted to. I mean, when I was young, I just wanted to play sport. That's all I ever did. But then I wanted to be a graphic designer, and I went to uni and I studied to be a graphic designer, and that just didn't work. I still love drawing, but I chose all the modules with drawing. I mean, this was a long time ago because I'm quite old, and at the time, I finished doing my degree where I did a lot of drawing, and then I go for an interview and they say, "Do this on a computer," and I was like, "What? What?" Computers. So that career didn't go anywhere. Well, actually, where it went was for me to be painting Peppa Pig on my daughter's wall whenever when she was younger and stuff like that. So at that time, I saw. I mean, I saw an advert to go into marketing, and I thought, "Oh, marketing, graphic design, I can do it." And it was door-to-door sales. So yeah, I always wanted to be either sport or something arty, and I do neither of them.
My, I mean, that's not unusual. Mine certainly, mine was all sport. Art, in fact, anything art or creative or musical is just incredibly, and so much so that I decided at the end of last year that I had enough of being so poor at those things that I needed to learn. So I'm starting to learn how to play the piano. And my wife got me an electric piano for Christmas, and I'd like to say I've used it a lot, but I haven't as yet. YouTube's been my friend, and I've learned how to play a couple of basic things. But yeah, my creativity or my creative juices, that's not probably a strong point for me. But sport, like you, I mean, I loved sport, and if I could have found a way to make that my career, I think I probably would have done. But I think the thing I realised is that there's not actually, apart from if in any sport, unless you're at the very very top end, there's just no money. There's no um,
I
it's
remember my coach saying, yeah, because it was more tennis than anything else, saying, come down at 5 in the morning and train and stuff like that if you want to be pro. And I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. It's not what I want to do. I'm not that dedicated to anything, really. So yeah, it wasn't something I was really serious about. I loved playing, and I mean, I was actually in the county squad for tennis, but I didn't take it seriously. I was never committed to it. I just went on court and enjoyed the game.
I'm always astounded when I meet people. I mean, you read these stories, you see sports professionals in any walk of life who you see the level of dedication they had at such a young age. And I think that it's well documented that a lot of that can come from the parents and instilling that kind of almost militant kind of environment
Yeah.
to create that. But I equally find that when recruiting for SDR talent and maybe kind of like entry level SDRs, I'm quite often astounded when you meet these people who are straight out of uni and they've got their shit together so much. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I think if you
Yeah.
really open them up, a lot of
Yeah.
it would say, look, I'm faking it until fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But still, nonetheless, I know what I was like when I was 18,
Oh.
19, 20, 21, 22, and I had no way near the composure that so many
I
young
had too
people
many other
take on.
interests that you probably we shouldn't talk about. I mean, it wasn't, tennis was the last thing on my mind when I was
True.
18. If I'm honest.
True. Growing up, or maybe even now, who are the influences, the people that you look back on and think they're the people who have played such a key and integral part in your career?
It's a hard one, this, because it's a lot of people have influenced me, and it's like, to me, this is a little bit like having mentors. I don't have one mentor. I have a number of people I go to for the right thing. So when I look at who has influenced me, it's hard to name one person, because I think people have influenced or inspired me in different ways. And so the list is quite long. I think what I would say is, I mean, there was a leader at LinkedIn, a guy called Mike Gamson, who was top of the tree, basically. It was fantastic. And he stands out to me as someone that I would sit there and go, I'd love to be like him. And he was so inspirational. What was great about Mike is, first of all, what I learned is he looked like he loved every day of working, which to me is great. I'm that person. I want to enjoy work, but he was inspirational. He was very compassionate for the people around him, and just a great person, but very good at what he did and enjoyed what he did. And I think he was the one that would influence me more as an aspirational. I'd love to be like him, I would say. But I also think, turning on its head a little bit, I think that a lot of people that have worked in organizations that, and I don't mean under me in that horrible way, but in organizations I've led, have also influenced me or inspired me. Because it's like when you have kids, you realize all those values you talked about, you can't be the one that doesn't portray those values. And there's lots of people that, I think when you have a team and you become, and if you're a values-based leader and a purpose-based leader and a servant leader, you've got to show the right things. And that really influences who you end up being. And I remember, a lot of the time, there was someone called Tash Evans that's worked for me. She was at LinkedIn and came to Sales Loft with me. So many times I remember in my head saying, no, I can't do that. I would let Tash down and stuff like this. And it's holding you to that bar. And I think that has very much influenced how I've become me as a leader, just knowing that the values that I talk about, I've got to hold them and really be the model of showing those. And so, I think the people in my teams have really influenced who I've become, because I don't want to let them down.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think also what you said at the very beginning, which is maybe just being, it doesn't have to be one person, but being open to being influenced by others. Because sometimes I meet leaders and founders who aren't very good at asking, and also actually aren't very good at listening either. So, and it's, having done a few of these interviews now, one of the consistent themes has come up has been the ability to listen. And I think if you're going to be influenced, then you've got to be good at listening, right? Because you've got to be able to take on board what others are saying. And some people just don't like to do that.
I think it comes down to EQ. I think EQ is something, it's about understanding yourself. And I think that if someone has a good level of EQ, they understand their own strengths and weaknesses. And I can list my weaknesses and I know what they are. And I think someone asked me when I was interviewing them for a role the other day, why I was successful as a salesperson. And my answer was just because I listened and learned from everyone around me. I went in from being in recruitment into LinkedIn, and I was just surrounded by people. I was going, right, that person's the best at this, that person's the best at this. If I can get near every person about their superpower as close as I can to their ability, then I'll be successful. And that's how I've done it. And that's how I see the mentorship side and being influenced. I think it's just learning from the people around you.
I agree. I completely agree. When you look at the businesses that you've worked in, and we want to focus as much on success within this podcast as also the learnings that, the tougher times as well. Is there are there certain stages that you see in every business that you've worked in where you can pinpoint and go, that's probably the hardest stage of growth or development when you're trying to scale?
I think through scaling, there are just different stages. And to say that is the hardest, I think you've got to map the stage to the people. Because just because it's the hardest stage to move from a founder-led sales process to a true sales-led process, if you've got a founder like Rory who's come from sales, then that's not the hardest bit. If you've got a technical founder, it becomes the hardest bit. So I think that in answering this question, it's very relative to what the founder's skills are and stuff like that and their own experience. For me, I think that transitioning each stage becomes hard. I've been an advisor to companies and I've done some consulting between jobs with quite a lot of startups as well. And I think noticing and transitioning from stage to stage is very hard for companies. And I think that a lot of the time, the culture changes throughout a company's scaling. And I think that what I've seen is that very much at the beginning, the culture is the founder. Then they get technical people involved, and the culture becomes very technical and product kind of people. Then
Yep.
they start hiring salespeople, and there's an imbalance. And I've worked at a company where there was an imbalance. It was moving towards more sales and go to market, but they didn't look at the culture to say, how do we keep these two together? And it became quite disparate. And I think that it's all of those kind of things about how these changes impact the culture and how we should think about how we keep this one culture. I think that's one thing. For me specifically in my space, where I help companies, the biggest area I help companies is with the sales narrative. I think that what happens is there's a founder has a great idea for a product, they start taking it to market, they go through friends and they start doing well. But then they've got to go and sell this. And this is when I say sell, it's about doing cold calls, speak to people that don't know you personally and stuff. And it's moving it from a product-led conversation to a value-led conversation. And I think that is the hardest part of it, because I think it needs to happen early. When you're going true sales to scale a business, you've got to work out not how to talk about the product, how you talk about the pains that you solve and the value you deliver to your prospect, because that's the way they're going to buy. And putting that structure and process in around value that's going to last a long time, that I think is the biggest challenge for most companies that I see.
I think I definitely see that too. And what I've seen in the last couple of years, and a couple of examples that I won't share for obvious reasons, but companies that have unfortunately not been successful, I can look at founders who've designed a very smart product and a very smart piece of technology, but without the understanding of what is the problem that it solves and who is the person who should actually be buying that product. And so, and regrettably, we've placed a couple of salespeople into those businesses as kind of founding salespeople who, after a few months, have turned around and said, this is great, but actually there's no understanding here of what problem this is solving or the value that it's given.
And is the TAM big enough as well?
Yeah, exactly that. And there's a view that, well, it's a great piece of technology, so it just should solve everyone's problems within. And that's the reality is that that's just not the case. It's just not the way it works. And I've definitely seen that in the last couple of years more so.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there is a company I've worked with in the past that I just think that it's a great product. And when you get it in front of the right person, they're just like, yeah, this is amazing. But finding those 10 people in the world that find it amazing, it's really tough. And is the timing right, or is the product right? That's where the question goes.
Yeah, definitely. Another person that I've interviewed in the past who talks about this as well, who found themselves in the same situation, said it's very hard if you've got a product or a founder who sees their product as being a Swiss Army knife, because actually the buyer doesn't want a Swiss Army knife. What they want is whatever the thing is, a dagger or a rifle or whatever the thing might be. So,
yeah,
that resonates. That resonates. There will be loads, I know, over the years that you've used, but are there certain scale levers that you have seen work, maybe more than once actually, where you go into a business and think this isn't being done, this is absolutely an opportunity, where we can see something that's going to provide incredible return on investment and growth? Are there certain things that you feel like work consistently?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's one that I would say that works consistently, and one that I've sort of been surprised at recently it changed my mind on something. I think the one that I see a lot of that in most companies I speak to is simplification. There's too much, and it's very much going back to the original the past conversation of the go-to-market narrative and value and stuff. I think that simplificate, and being a Yorkshireman, and not that intelligent, my strength is that I can simplify stuff, and it's just because I need it simple for my brain. I think that's what it is, and just that simplification of being able to go to a company and explain what you do, or even do an outbound cadence that is simple. It explains what we do. That to me is the thing that helps, is a big lever that helps scale businesses, because what you have is, going back to the founder-led sales, it's overcomplicated. They're talking about the product, all of these kind of things. And I get cold called, outbounded, whether it's LinkedIn, emails, etc., so many times every week. And the percent of those messages that I actually understand what they do, and I just ignore it or say no because I don't even know what they do, is amazing. So why? I mean, I'd rather someone say that this is what we do in layman's terms, in Ollie brain terms, and this is what we solve. Is it worth a conversation? And I can go,
Mm.
oh yeah, or no. But no one does it. And I think that even when you're demoing a product, most of the time people forget that when you're demoing the product, it's the first time somebody's seen it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can go in there, so when we talk about scaling, how to scale a business, what levers, I would say just simplify everything. Simplify how you talk about your product so people understand it. Simplify the value you deliver. Don't go in just going, oh, we increase ROI by this and your win rates by this, and use this jargon that everyone goes, what does that mean? Go in with what it actually does. And when you demo it, remember it's the first time you've seen it. Keep it simple. Keep it slow and simple. That simplification to me is something that I think is the biggest lever that impacts scalability of a business that I go and help companies with. The other one that is more of a surprise to me recently is outsourcing. I've always been, no, we'll do it ourselves, whether it's SDRs, whether it's marketing or something like that. And I mean, I've now outsourced my SDRs, and it's great. I mean, and I always said I wouldn't. I mean, you're at
Mm.
Salesloft, you couldn't do it because you had a tool for them, so it would just be sacrilege to do it. But I think that the outsourcing side for startups and scale ups, I think is amazing. And it's like, I think the outsourcing is quite aligned with advisory work, because if you're at a company and you want to scale and you don't want to be having the overheads of people all the time, get advisors in, someone that can work for you one day a week or even just be on the end of a call for you. The value you get from that and the value you get from outsourcing now is becoming a lot more intelligent way of running a business, in my view. And I was always against all of this, but especially the outsourcing side. But yeah, that's one of the levers that I've been surprised at how impactful it can be. Here we work with an outsourced BDR marketing company and an outsourced SDR company, and it's going great.
Yeah, it's something that in my world in recruitment, which you obviously know incredibly well as well from the past. There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of noise around that at the moment, because actually, if you think about the typical life cycle of working on a project, so much of the initial legwork is just outreach of trying to, either through your CRM or your communities or through LinkedIn, just trying to engage in conversation. And actually, do you want to be hiring people who spend all day every day just doing that, or do you want to be hiring people who actually just have the get down to the
Yeah,
quality of conversation and engagement, and
yeah.
get someone else to do the initial, as long as it's good? I think the issue has always just been quality.
That's the problem. I think that, and I'm not going to mention it. I think there's a lot of companies trying to do this at the moment, and
Mm.
I'm not sure. From my experience, I'm not sure there's many that are actually good at doing it. Luckily, I've got one that is good at doing it, and so I have a lot of trust in them. But I think that is something. Outsourcing is good if you find the right company, and that is the risk that is associated with it. But yeah, that has surprised me. I've completely turned my view of it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm definitely the same. Ollie, one of my last questions for you. How do you, in this ever changing, fast paced kind of world that we live in, working within the type of businesses that you found yourself in, certainly recently and back in the day as well, what's the secret to maintaining some degree of sanity in your view?
I think that to me it comes down to sort of three things. I think that first of all, it's just do something you enjoy. I remember to speak to someone and they just said the importance of just enjoying what you do. And I realized that when I was at LinkedIn, I loved going to work. I was loving what I was doing. And at Salesloft, I loved what I was doing. Then at some other roles, I wasn't looking forward to Monday on a Sunday. And now going back to it, I'm excited to go to work. And to me, I don't have weekends and weekdays. I'm just in a different place on those days, but I love, and so, and I've said this before, I think that, I mean, my wife had cancer a long time ago, and it taught me to think differently about work. It taught me to think, well, actually, just enjoying what you do, and that's a big thing. So I think that keeps me sane. I also think that just work out what is best for you. I think in this day and age where we can work remote, we can work hybrid. I worked remote for 2 years and my head wasn't in a good place. And my wife's an actual qualified therapist. And when I got a job back in office, she said to me, I don't think you realized what you were like when you were working at home. And I think that it's a good realization. I'm saying it doesn't work for everybody. It didn't work for me. And I think it's working out what is best for you. And I've now got my rhythm. Something that I've talked about in the past, which is it's called a MEPS check-in, which is by Schwartz and Law, who were two looked at people playing tennis, about how they recover and stuff like that. And they took it into the business world. And it's about mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And it's about putting the habits in place to keep you at your best. It's called a peak performance pyramid. And if you can understand that, it's on YouTube, and then you can actually build your rhythm. So I go for a run 2-3 times a week. I know that I want to see people in the office 2 to 3 times a week. I know that I need to spend time with friends. I want to spend time with my wife and kids. And I prioritize all of that so that I can keep sane in my job and I enjoy it. So that's really important, getting that balance. And I think the other thing is, because of the madness of work and how it's always busy and those kind of things, and it's always change, it's the skill of being able to prioritize. So I came into Trumpet, and I think nothing was massively broken. Everything could be tweaked. But my first job was to work out, to build this long list and go, not long list, but this list, and go, okay, that can wait till at least 6 months down the line. That is going to have the biggest impact on revenue right now. And okay, that's nowhere near as a big a priority as everything else. So knowing how to prioritize just stops you running around like a headless chicken. And it's okay to say, yeah, that's important, but it can wait 6 months. It's like sorting out your CRM. Okay, is it going to impact our revenue now? Or is me spending time with every one of the AEs going to impact revenue now? So that ability to prioritize, I would say, keeps me sane, and being able to accept, put that on a shelf till later, and I'll cover it later. That really stops me worrying about it. I know that I'm going to do it, and I then go to my CEO and say, I'm deprioritizing this. I'm going to do it 6 months. Are you cool with that? Yes, we are. Brilliant. So they're the 3 things that I would say keep me as sane as Ollie Sharpe can be.
as he possibly can be.
Yes, I can. I maybe past that, but yeah.
That point around the point around doing the things that you enjoy and being around the people and prioritization of time, etc. It's such a key point, and it's only really dawned on me quite recently how important that is. And the example that I've given to a couple of people before it's a really small example, but it really showed it how important it was to me, which was last year, end of the summer. Work had been really, really quite tough actually, and putting in a huge amount of hours. And I was just a bit knackered, to be honest. And I got to like a Thursday, and I still knew I had a big Friday ahead of me. And a couple of my mates said, "Oh, do you want to go and play 9 holes of golf later on at kind of 6 o'clock?" And I was like, "I don't know, I'm knackered, boys. I don't know if I fancy it." And I went, and we played 9 holes of golf, and I had 2 beers, and we had a bit of a chat. And then I got home and I ate dinner late, which I never normally do, but later than anyone ever says you should do. Let's say it was like 9ish, spaghetti bolognese, I think it was. And I thought, oh, this is terrible. I'm eating like something that's heavy. I'm eating too late. It's like typically. Anyway, long story short, I woke up the following morning after a pretty good night's sleep, and I felt incredibly energized. I just all the fatigue had gone. And I spoke to somebody about this a few weeks after that event, who knows a lot more about psychology than I do, and a lot more about the way that your body works, and said, don't ever underestimate the importance of that social interaction, because that might just be the one. You can forget all the other factors. You met some friends, you had the chance to socialize, you enjoyed yourself, you stopped thinking about work, you had a good night's sleep, which maybe the couple of beers helped, maybe whatever, doesn't matter. But that all impacted, and it just taught me a really valuable lesson, which is that
I would listen to TJ Power on podcast. He did one with Mo Gaudet and a few others, and he talks about the dose effect, which is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, etc. And it all comes from us. For the majority of time, we've all been hunter-gatherers, and there's a reason why dopamine inspires us to do something, because we are hunting for something and it helps us get there. Modern day changes that, because we look on social media and get a sudden hit of dopamine, then the bar comes higher. Oxytocin is about, we're meant to be in groups, and instead we message people, and even hearing someone's voice creates oxytocin, then but you're better doing it face to face. So everything you've just said, even every part of it goes under a D, O, or S, or E. And
Yeah.
that's what our brain needs for us to be happy and our best.
Love it. It's good advice. It's good advice, Ollie. Where do you consume when you're looking to learn and develop, or media, news, information? What are the kind of sources that you typically like to use?
So I mean, it's a mix for me, and I think that it's. I'd put it into sort of three categories. I think there's the sales side. So I listen to Revenue Builders podcast, which is John
Mm-hmm.
McMahon and Kaplan. I listen to the Masters of Medic, which is Andy White. So I listen to the sales nerdy podcast that I sit there, go, oh, that's really good. I like that. So I like that bit. Then there's also, and I'd put leadership in there as well. So I listen to quite a few leadership and sales stuff. Then I also listen to a lot of more human kind of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tend to walk the dogs or go for a run most mornings. And to me, I will mix it between listening to something that is either an audiobook or a podcast around work, or something that helps me as a person. I mean, my favorites that are more human are Slow Mo, which is Mo Gaudet, which is brilliant. He has some great guests on there. I've listened to a lot of TJ Power, who's recently done the Dose Effect book, which is about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. So those, and Jay Shetty, I love things about the monk mind and Buddhism and stuff. So I have those, but I also have some fun things. I like listening to fun podcasts like The Wolf and Owl and stuff, which is Ron Mashong and Nathan and Tom Davis. So I just need a mix. My mind does not go deep into anything. It just needs that mix. But I learn from lots of podcasts. I would say that I have got really into audiobooks as well. I think that the Dose Effect by TJ Power I've listened to, but the books are more around compassion, EQ, self-compassion, those kind of things that I love reading. But yeah, I wouldn't say they're more as much of the sales side. It's more me as a person and learning how to manage my mind, my happiness and stuff like that I listen to more of, because I think that by doing it I can be my best person at work. But I'm constantly reading little snippets of things to learn how to do Medic better, what different ways other sales processes can help, and leadership.
I think I can't. I've tried. I can't get on board with the audiobooks. I don't know what it is. I love to pick up a book and read it, but increasingly I feel like probably the audiobook, I need to revisit that just because of the convenience. Because actually, if I think about travel, for example, I'm in the office most days. I've got a kind of 20-minute drive each way. It's 40 minutes of listening to something every day, and actually a book's probably not going to take that many weeks to do. And the reality is I don't get much time to pick up that book and read it. And by the time I do, it's late in the evening. I used to read a lot before I went to bed, but then I realized that actually for me, that's the worst time for me to read, because I read it almost as a kind of way of falling asleep, and I don't actually retain a lot of what I've read.
You know what I mean? It either gets your brain going that you don't sleep, or you don't retain it, and you can't work it out. And I was exactly the same, and I would say I read less books now, but where it helps me is I go for a run 2 or 3 times a week. I hate running, absolutely hate it. I just do it so I can be a little bit healthier and less fat. So the fact that I hate it, if I can listen to a good book, I forget that I'm running, and I can just zone out and listen to the book, and I concentrate on the book. I don't think I could do it for traveling or sitting in a car or anything like that. It is literally while I run or walk the dog, if I can listen to something that takes my mind off what I'm doing and I don't get bored, then it helps me.
Sure. That makes sense. I'm going to revisit the audiobooks, I think.
Try it. Go for a run and see, and find something you like. Because all I do when I run, I think about getting home, and I hate it. And whereas if I'm listening to one at the moment, which is about emotional intelligence in sales, I'm really into it. And I can do a run, and I forget that I'm running. It's great.
Love it. Love it. Last question for you, Ollie, before we wrap things up. What's the one piece of advice that, based on your experience, that you give to any early stage founders who are either looking to launch or have recently launched their business? What would be the one thing that really stands out for you that you've learned over the years?
There's no one specific thing, because I think, but when I say there's no one specific thing, my answer is that there's a famous saying: the only thing that is constant is change. And you've got to be just expecting change the whole time. Nothing goes as planned, nothing stays the same throughout. And there's always going to be something. Once you've changed something, that will probably have to change again, or something else in the business will have to change. And it is just constant change within a business. I think the one thing that culture is going to change, but it's trying to keep that constant and not changing too much. I mean, when I joined LinkedIn and I was one of 14 compared to when I left, yeah, the culture changed, but the values stayed consistent. And I think that that is important. So the culture and values of a business can change and develop with a company, but it got to go root back to your values because that's what keeps you grounded. But it is just about expect change. Change happens constantly, and it has to happen for you to get where you need to be. So that's maybe a crap answer, but that's what I would say to any leader that's in the startup space or scale up space. Just expect change and just live with it. Do it.
I think it's solid advice. I think I, I don't like change. I go with it. I don't. I know I don't. I find the whole process, even though I live in this world where there is continuous change, I, I find it really hard. I know I do. It's something that I battle with a lot because there's this. I like it when things are running smoothly. I like it when I feel in that flow state. Everyone does, I know, but when you feel in that flow state, when just the things that you put in place are just constantly going,
Mm.
that's when I feel most alive.
Yep.
And as soon as something goes wrong and breaks that, I'm like, shit. Like what? You know
Yeah.
what?
I've got really bad concentration span, really bad, and I think that that's why I actually like change, and I like getting in that flow state. But I like change, and if something's the same for a bit, like at LinkedIn, I was there 10 years. I never did the same job for more than 2 years, and I just like change the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's good, but I mean that shows you what my attention span is like. It's taking that weakness into into a strength. Maybe I don't know.
No, 100%, 100%. Ollie, thank you so much. That's been just over half an hour. Very well spent. I look, what you've done speaks for itself. I'm so glad to hear that you are really happy again and enjoying. Looking forward on a Sunday to Mondays. Yeah, that's important for all. And I think that there's, as always, a lot that can be kind of unpicked here by kind of senior leaders and founders. So thank you again for taking part in the podcast.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.